Hello there, I'm Thomas Lee, and this time I'd like to discuss the Windows 7 error issue. What is the Windows 7 error? This is the special visual effect attached to this particular Windows version. It is responsible, for example, for 3D switching multiple windows on your desktop. It may look fancy. It is also responsible for Windows transparency, in which part of your windows may be at least partially transparent. And generally speaking, the error effects are responsible for the better overall look of your Windows interface, Windows user interface. So generally and usually it works without any issues, but it also is known for that it may have some errors here and there. Once for a while, it may not work properly. To be more precise, from time to time, it may stop working from no apparent reason. It seems at least that way. And there are several fixes for that out there. But in my particular case, I haven't found any successful method to fix the issue, because in my case, the error situation was pretty strange. It looked that one composition was still be working. The base composition, it is probably called Windows 7. The composition which supports error effects. So it has, for example, the transparency within Windows I've mentioned before. It has 3D Windows switching or flipping also, and so on. Transparent taskbar, nicely looking Alt Tab, and another thing worth mentioning, by the way, is that I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Windows magnifier, maybe you use this tool often. I use it often, and the Windows magnifier can be used. It looks like it can be used only if the error effects are working properly. If those effects are not working, then the magnifier works in a kind of a limited way, not allowing you to zoom the whole screen at once, but instead of this, it only shows a limited area on your screen, which consists of zoomed picture of your desktop. And it isn't so convenient to use. So this is one reason why error effects may be important to have those effects working properly. So back to my case, one composition, which is probably called Windows 7, was still be working properly with all those error effects under Windows 7. In my case, Home Premium 32-bit version. And now, although this particular composition was working right, all the other I have installed unfortunately didn't work. Again, to be more precise, they did work partially. I mean that I was able to turn those compositions on. So, for example, if I had some dark themed composition, I was still able to use it partially to turn it on. I was able to do that, but without any error effects. So if this composition had transparency, for example, it didn't work. 3D Windows switching also didn't work. There wasn't nicely looking taskbar on the bottom of the screen, and so on and so on. So although the composition itself supported error effects, visual effects, it didn't work with this issue I am addressing now. So the case was that I have discovered that any other composition didn't work also. The only exception was the composition, the main composition called Windows 7, and probably, I suppose, other pre-installed compositions would also work properly because they were pre-installed by Microsoft within Windows itself. But any other custom compositions, let's put it that way, didn't work, didn't support error effects anymore. And this was the most weird thing in this issue, that it wasn't about the error effects stopped working totally, but it was about that those effects stopped working only in case of any other error composition than the pre-installed one. So how I have fixed that? First, I have tried several various workarounds for that, because there are several things you can do in that kind of situation. But in my case, nothing worked. Nothing worked. So I have reached for some program. I remember it was popular some time ago, years ago, and now I have the impression that only a small amount of people know about its existence. The program is called CustoPack, and this is an amazing tool because it allows you to easily activate custom Windows 7 compositions or themes, if you will, on your desktop, for example, because there are many ways in which you can turn on custom Windows themes in order to be able to use them, because Windows 7 itself doesn't allow you to use custom themes. It only allows you to use pre-installed themes and maybe other themes, but they must be provided by Microsoft itself. So no custom themes, but there are many custom and very attractively looking themes out there. So in order to use them, to be able to use them, you need to do some procedure. There are many ways to do that, as I have said before, but CustoPack may be the most easy way to achieve this thing, to be able to use custom themes in Windows 7. And on top of that, it allows you also to custom several other things like sounds, cursors, fonts, and a couple of other stuff. And what is even more important, it does the trick with the activation of custom themes on Windows 7. And it is pretty easy to use. Just one thing you need to do is just to install the program and follow the procedure, which is pretty standard as any other program. Probably it may require a single restart of your computer, and that's it. From that moment forward, you will be able to use custom themes on Windows 7. You can download those compositions from any source and put it in the proper place on your disk, and that's it. But back to my case with the Aero issue. This tool, CustoPack, it seems that it may solve the problem totally successfully. One thing you need to do if you haven't used this tool so far is just to install it. And that's it. In my case, it solved the issue. Although I have used this tool for a long time, I just needed to uninstall it first and reinstall it to be able to use Aero effects in any Windows theme successfully, and it worked. So for me, it was a great news, because before, in that kind of a situation, the only solution for me was to reinstall the whole operating system, because for me it is pretty important, for example, to be able to use Windows Magnifier, and also I much like all those fancy looking visual effects, and customizing. I love customizing, so it was very important for me to have all those Aero Windows effects active, enabled. As I have said before, there are many custom compositions out there, So definitely you could pick and choose for a long time and experiment a lot. But the most important thing is that in case you'd experience a similar issue with the error effects, in which they work only in case of a pre-installed Windows 7 theme, you could solve this with just installing the CustoPack tool and use this to activate custom theme ability on Windows 7. Another thing which I need to mention is that before you download any custom theme which is not dedicated especially for CustoPack, you need to download a composition which was prepared especially for this tool in order to turn it on in this CustoPack program, because this will do the trick. Not only installing the program, but you need to activate any Windows theme dedicated to the CustoPack in the program. You need to activate the composition first in order to enable the whole function, the whole ability to use any custom Windows theme. But you do it just temporarily in order to enable the feature. And once you do that, you can download any other Windows theme, not necessarily dedicated to CustoPack, and use it. As I have mentioned, just by placing it in the proper place on your disk. That's all. So I will describe the whole process in more details, but it is pretty easy procedure, and I am very happy that it seems that this is the final solution, so to speak, to solve this issue once and for all. So thank you for your attention and time, and have a good day.